Before diving into this story, hit that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe, because here, every story is a new emotion you won't want to miss. A bride-to-be uncovers that her fiancé was not only hiding secrets, but was tied to the very injustice that destroyed her family. How do you love someone who might have been part of the darkest chapter of your life? Maya Reed was 29, a passionate photographer whose art captured fragments of pain and beauty. Raised by her mother after her father's sudden disappearance from their lives, she learned early how fragile trust could be. On the night of her engagement party, her smile was radiant, her heart believing that with Ethan Cole she had finally found stability and love. Ethan was 31, charismatic, ambitious, the heir to one of the most powerful law firms in the state. To the world, he was the perfect man, elegant, confident, with eyes that promised protection. He had knelt in front of her in a room full of witnesses and asked her to be his forever. She had said yes, unaware of the storm behind his polished smile. Grace, Maya's mother, watched her daughter's joy with pride, but also with unease. Grace carried a truth Maya had never fully known. 14 years ago, Maya's father had been convicted of embezzlement in a scandal that stripped their family of dignity and wealth. He had insisted on his innocence, but the courts silenced him, and the Coles' prestigious law firm was at the center of it all. Maya never connected Ethan to that painful history. She believed those were separate worlds until small cracks began to appear. After the party, Maya found herself staring at a plaque inside the Cole firm's office building. Among the engraved names of celebrated attorneys, one caught her eye: E. Cole and Partners. The name seemed newly added, carved into the metal of a case that had marked her family's fall. Unease stirred inside her. Days later, a letter arrived without a sender's name. 4 words chilled her blood. "You don't know the truth." She tried to dismiss it as nonsense, but unease grew. At a charity gala, she crossed paths with Samantha Rivera, a journalist known for chasing forgotten scandals. Samantha told her that she had once investigated her father's case. She hinted that evidence had been suppressed and witnesses manipulated. Maya's pulse raced. Could this stranger really know the truth that her family had long buried? Ethan seemed eager to distract her, surprising Maya with tickets to meet his parents. It was supposed to be a milestone, but when she finally met Victor Cole, the powerful patriarch, his cold gaze pierced her. His words were sharp, dismissing the notion of old cases as irrelevant. Maya's skin crawled. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, trying to change the subject, but the silence between them grew heavier. Restless, Maya searched online late one night and stumbled upon an old video clip. Grainy, distorted, but real. Her father's voice filled the room, pleading his innocence, while another voice, unmistakable even through static, spoke with chilling authority. It was Victor Cole, demanding that someone make sure he takes the fall. Her hands shook as she pressed pause. The world seemed to tilt. She confronted Ethan the next day, her voice trembling. He swore he had been too young, that he had not known the depth of what had happened. Yet when she looked into his eyes, she saw hesitation, guilt, a crack in his perfect facade. Unable to stop, Maya turned to Samantha for help. Together they unearthed old files and testimonies. Every discovery pointed to corruption. Every page whispered that her father had been framed. Ethan, meanwhile, seemed torn apart. Maya watched him from across a room, his hands trembling as he held a glass of whiskey, his shoulders heavy with secrets he refused to share. One evening, she overheard Ethan arguing with his father in the firm's private library. Ethan's voice shook with rage. "You knew the testimony was false. You let an innocent man go down." Victor's reply was cold and merciless. "Family requires sacrifice." That man was expendable. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She pressed a hand to her chest, realizing that the man she loved was part of this darkness. Later that night, she confronted Ethan, If you loved me, why didn't you stop it? He looked at her, speechless. His silence hurt more than any confession. Then, Ethan disappeared for 2 days. No calls, no explanations. Maya's world spiraled. On the third night, her phone rang. A distorted voice told her to meet at the old courthouse at midnight. Fearful yet determined, she went. In the shadows of the abandoned building, she found an envelope. Inside were photographs, a young Ethan, barely out of adolescence, delivering documents to a prosecutor, a signature from Victor Cole, and, shockingly, Maya's father's defense attorney sitting at the same table. The evidence was damning. Ethan had been closer to the truth than he ever admitted. Her chest tightened, her heart torn between the man she loved and the betrayal that had destroyed her family. And then, in the silence of the courthouse, the realization came. Ethan was either her greatest ally or her most dangerous enemy. Maya left the courthouse with trembling hands clutching the envelope, her heart pounding as though it wanted to escape her chest. The city lights blurred before her eyes as she walked into the night, every step heavier with betrayal. She could no longer silence the truth. Ethan had been entangled in the same machinery that destroyed her father. Whether as a pawn or an accomplice, he had known more than he had ever confessed. For 2 days, she avoided Ethan, drowning in questions. Her mother noticed the sleepless circles beneath her eyes. "You love him," Grace whispered, brushing her daughter's hair back. "But love without truth is poison." Maya didn't answer. She couldn't. On the third morning, Ethan appeared at her studio, his suit wrinkled, his face unshaven. He looked like a man who hadn't slept. He reached for her, but she stepped back, clutching the photographs. She held them up, her voice breaking. "How long have you lied to me?" His jaw tightened. "I didn't lie. I buried it." "That's the same thing," he tried to explain. He had been 16 when Victor forced him to deliver those documents. At the time, he didn't understand the weight of what he was doing. Years later, when the truth came to him, he was too deep inside the family business to expose it. "If I had gone against him, he would have destroyed me too," Ethan said, his eyes pleading. Maya's voice was icy. "Destroyed you? He destroyed my father. He destroyed my family." And you watched in silence. He reached again, but she pulled away. "Don't touch me," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. That night, Samantha visited her with more evidence. Bank records, transfers to an offshore account, all linked to Victor and his partner Jared. But what shook Maya most was the name on one document. A trust fund created for Ethan, seeded with money stolen from the very case that condemned her father. Maya's stomach twisted. Was Ethan not only complicit but rewarded? At sunrise, she stormed into Ethan's penthouse. He was waiting, as if he had known she'd come. She slammed the documents onto his table. "You profited from my family's pain," she accused. He looked at the papers, his face stricken. "I never touched that money. He set it up without my consent. Then why didn't you burn it? Why didn't you walk away?" "Because," Ethan whispered, his voice hoarse, "I didn't know how. For years I've been trapped in his shadow, but loving you, it's the only thing that's ever felt real." Her heart cracked, torn between fury and the tenderness still lingering in her chest. She wanted to believe him, but the wounds were too raw. She left without another word. Days turned into nights of torment. Maya threw herself into her art, but every photograph she captured seemed to echo Ethan's face. Meanwhile, Samantha pressed harder. "If you want justice, you have to expose them," Ethan included. "No exceptions," Maya nodded, but deep inside, she feared that destroying Ethan would also destroy herself. One evening, she found a flash drive slipped under her door. No, just the drive. When she plugged it in, she discovered video footage of a secret meeting between Victor, Jared, and several officials. Ethan was there too, younger, silent, seated at the edge of the table. His eyes darted nervously as Victor orchestrated the plan to scapegoat her father. The video captured Victor's chilling words. "He takes the fall, or we all go down." Ethan said nothing, but his silence was damning. The footage spread like fire in her mind. Ethan hadn't spoken up then. Would he ever? The next night, Ethan showed up again, desperate, broken. "I have something to tell you," he said. His hands shook as he revealed that he had secretly been gathering evidence against his father for years. He had been building a case, planning to expose Victor once he had enough to guarantee conviction. "I wanted to protect you. I wanted to free your father's name. But if I moved too soon, he would crush everything." Maya stared at him, torn. Was he confessing truth or spinning another lie? Their argument exploded. Maya screamed through her tears. "You are part of this. You're his blood, his legacy. And every time you stayed silent, you chose him over me." Ethan's face collapsed with pain. "No, I chose survival. But now I choose you." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Your father's death wasn't an accident. Her blood ran cold. Her father had died years ago in prison, at least that was what she'd been told. The message suggested otherwise. Samantha confirmed her worst fear. Rumors had always circulated that he was silenced because he was about to reveal the truth. Maya's grief reignited into fury. She vowed to uncover everything, no matter the cost. Together with Samantha, she planned to expose Victor. Ethan begged to help, swearing he was on her side. Against her better judgment, Maya allowed him in, but warned, "The moment I see you protecting him, I'll destroy you too." As they dug deeper, threats began to circle them. One night, Maya's studio was broken into, her photographs shredded, her laptop stolen. A single note was left behind. "Stop, or you'll end up like him." Fear clawed at her, but she refused to stop. She remembered her father's last embrace, his promise that the truth always finds light. She would honor that. The closer they got, the more dangerous it became. Jared cornered Ethan in a parking garage, warning him to back down. "You think you can betray your own father and walk away? He'll bury you both." Ethan punched him, fury spilling out, but his hand trembled. He knew Jared was right. Victor's reach was vast. Maya, meanwhile, found herself staring at Ethan differently. He was both her ally and her torment. Every glance carried heat. Every brush of his hand reignited memories of love. But the darkness between them was a wall that seemed impossible to break. Late one night, after hours of poring through files, Ethan touched her hand. She froze, but didn't pull away. His voice was low, broken. "I don't deserve forgiveness. But if you let me, I'll give my life to make this right." Tears filled her eyes. She wanted to hate him, yet her heart betrayed her. For a moment, she let him hold her. It felt like drowning and breathing at once. But dawn came with another blow. Samantha discovered that Ethan had delayed releasing critical evidence that could have cleared her father years ago. He had chosen to keep it hidden, afraid of retaliation from Victor. Maya's trust shattered again. When she confronted him, her rage was volcanic. "You had the power to save him, and you did nothing." "Nothing." Ethan fell to his knees, his voice breaking. "I was a coward, but let me be brave now. Please, Maya." Her sobs echoed through the room. She turned her back to him, her body trembling. "Get out. If you ever truly loved me, you'll prove it by destroying the man who made you what you are." Ethan left, his silhouette heavy with despair. That night, Maya stood on her balcony, the city sprawling beneath her. She realized that love and hate had become indistinguishable in her heart. Ethan was both the wound and the balm, the enemy and the only man she had ever truly loved. The storm was reaching its peak, and the next step would change everything. The night after Ethan walked out, Maya could not sleep. The city felt different, darker, as if every shadow whispered her father's name. She replayed Ethan's broken plea in her mind, his voice begging for one last chance. Her heart wavered between love and fury, between hope and the ache of betrayal. She told herself she no longer cared, but the truth gnawed at her. She did. At dawn, Samantha rushed into her apartment, her face pale. It's happening. Victor is moving everything offshore. If he succeeds, all the evidence we gathered will vanish. Maya felt her pulse quicken. This was the moment. Either they acted now or justice would be lost forever. They arranged a secret meeting with a federal investigator willing to listen. But to make the case undeniable, they needed one final piece of evidence: Victor himself admitting guilt. The risk was enormous. Samantha warned her, if we fail, we're not just losing the case, we're losing our lives. Maya hesitated only once, then remembered her father's voice. Truth always finds the light. That night, Ethan appeared again. His eyes were hollow, but burning with determination. He placed a flash drive on the table. This is everything. His accounts, his bribes, his recordings. I took it from his private safe. Maya stared at him, torn between gratitude and suspicion. Why now? Because you were right. I chose silence once. I won't again. Before she could respond, the door exploded open. Jared stormed in with 2 men, guns drawn. I warned you, Ethan. Blood betrays blood, and blood pays for it. Chaos erupted. Samantha screamed. Ethan lunged forward, and Maya's heart stopped as the gun went off. The sound tore the room apart. Ethan fell to the ground, clutching his side, blood spreading across his shirt. No, Maya cried, dropping to her knees. She pressed her hands against his wound, tears streaming down her face. His eyes met hers, filled with pain, but also something fierce, something resolute. Take it, finish this, he gasped, pushing the flash drive into her hand. Jared advanced, fury in his eyes. But before he could strike again, sirens wailed outside. The federal agents had arrived. A blur of shouting, lights, and gunfire ended with Jared dragged out in handcuffs, his curses echoing through the hall. Victor Cole, however, was not among them. He had vanished. Hours later, Ethan lay in a hospital bed, pale but alive. Maya sat beside him, the flash drive clutched in her hand. The investigators had confirmed it contained everything needed to dismantle Victor's empire. For the first time in years, her father's name could be cleared, but the cost weighed heavily. She looked at Ethan, torn. He had been both the cause of her suffering and the instrument of her redemption. His hand reached for hers, weak but desperate. I never asked for forgiveness, he whispered, but I can't breathe without you. Tell me there's a chance. Maya's heart wavered. She thought of her father, of justice, of all the years of pain. She thought of the boy Ethan once was, forced into darkness by his father's shadow. And she thought of the man before her now, broken, yet finally brave. Her lips trembled as she leaned closer. I don't know if I can forgive you, but I can't deny that I still love you. Tears filled his eyes. For the first time, she saw not the error of Victor Cole, but a man stripped of power, begging only for love. Days later, the news spread across the country. Victor Cole had been indicted, his empire crumbling under the weight of evidence. The name Reed was finally spoken with respect. Her father remembered not as a criminal, but as a victim of injustice. Yet in the quiet of her heart, Maya knew her story was far from over. Justice had been won, but scars remained. And with Ethan at her side, the future was uncertain. Was their love strong enough to rise from the ashes, or doomed to remain chained to the past? She stood on her balcony one night, the city glowing below. Ethan joined her, his arms still weak, but warm around her shoulders. For a moment, they said nothing. The silence between them was fragile but alive. Maya looked up at the stars and whispered to herself, love had betrayed her. Love had saved her. And love would forever be the battlefield where her heart learned to fight. The story didn't end it, only began anew. What would you do in Maya's shoes? Would you forgive a man linked to the destruction of your family? Or would you walk away forever? Leave in the comments what you would do so we can help each other.